Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're just going to be taking a look back at the logarithmic regression trend line that takes us from the beginning all the way to where we currently are and projecting forward. So if you guys like the content, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below, as well as the premium list for exclusive content. So let's go ahead and jump in. I posted a video about a week ago. It was called Bitcoin, the Beauty of Mathematics. But in that one, we actually talk about the total cryptocurrency market capitalization and projecting out to somewhere around $10 trillion as the total cryptocurrency market capitalization in about 3 years or so. Now, of course, 10 trillion, there's some uncertainty around that. You could obviously say plus or minus a few trillion. What's a few trillion among friends? But the general idea in this video is to go back and take a look at, well, if the crypto market cap is 10 trillion, where would that actually leave Bitcoin if we look at a similar type of analysis? So in this video, we're just going to be going over the same type of analysis or a similar type of analysis. It's not exactly the same, but for Bitcoin. And this is just basically something we've talked about before. We're updating it to the present day because it's been about a month or so since we last spoke about it. So let's go ahead and dive in. So this here is the price of Bitcoin on a logarithmic scale. As you guys know, this is basically what we use. It just means that going from each major tick up is a 10x, right, rather than a linear scale. Then the general idea is we choose quote unquote non-bubble data. In this one, I've identified it with these red data points that you can see scattered throughout. When we're not in this regime where you see red data points, it's what I would consider more so speculative bubble territory. Obviously, if you had fit a logarithmic regression curve just to this portion here, then the regression curve would look different if you fit it to, say, this portion and this portion. Just like if you fit it to these two portions, it would look different than if you fit it to all three of them. However, as we continue marching on through time, it doesn't change as much each time we continue to fit it through the next bear market. So the general idea here, right, is if we have this fit that goes through these various reaccumulation phases, I haven't actually fit it past data from the beginning of 2019, and I'm hoping I can just leave it at this fit and project it forward for a few more years. Now, obviously, we will need to refit it at some point. You could even argue that we could use this data over here to refit. However, I don't really think it would make a huge difference. I don't think that refitting it is actually going to make a substantial difference. And I'd prefer to just fit it to the lows back in 2018 and 2019 and then project that forward for the duration of the next market cycle. So again, if we add that tolerance band that we like to add, this is what you get. Identifying regions of accumulation and then regions of gross overvaluation of the price of Bitcoin. You can see present day, we are basically right around our fair value. Another thing we've noted in the past is that the fair value tends to be what the price of Bitcoin is at the halving. So each halving, the fair value corresponds to actually what the price of Bitcoin is within 1 to 2 percentage points. So here at around $10, and then here at a few $100, and then most recently at around $8,000 to $9,000. That was the price of Bitcoin at the halving a few months ago. So Bitcoin is still on track. We're still within this regression band that we've identified over a year ago, and we're slowly moving up it. Obviously, there's times where we might go into speculative bubbles above it and then come back down into it. But more or less, we're slowly moving up this regression band, despite the fact that it sometimes might not feel like we are making progress, but in fact we are. If we extend this out for a couple decades, we've showed before that it would project a $1 million Bitcoin in 2033. I think this would be a too liberal estimate. I would be more conservative because after the next market cycle, we're going to want to refit it. It's going to slowly shift it down a little bit more. But ultimately, I would expect to not see a $1 million Bitcoin until closer to 2040 or so. So if we take out that same metric that we looked at last time, where we take the price and subtract out the regression line and then divide it by that, you can see the equation is here: price minus the log line over the log line, which is the log line, by the way, is just this green highlighted region. Then this is what you get. And as we identified with the total cryptocurrency market cap, we see general decreasing in the peaks. And again, the way to interpret this, right, is it's the decreasing in the distance or the percent difference between this point up here and the regression band. So it's getting lower and lower each time. Each peak is not quite as far above the regression band as each subsequent peak, or as the peak before it. So then if we draw that trend line out and then identify if it's within 10% of the regression band, tends to be a pretty good buy. You could even obviously, move this up to say 20%, 30% or so. But if it's 100% overvalued, then you're getting into what I would consider bubble territory, because 100% overvaluation would mean if the fair value of Bitcoin is say 10K, 100% overvaluation would put it at 20K. And so this would be what I would consider to be outside of this theoretical accumulation territory. And then we have a general uncertainty band up here as well in terms of where it is actually going to peak. And if you follow this channel for long enough, you're more than aware the idea of lengthening cycles and the idea that Bitcoin will not peak at 100K most likely in 2021, but it's going to take a few more years, probably sometime out in the 2023 timeframe, maybe plus or minus 6 to 8 months or so. So something like that is something that I could envision. But again, it could take longer. It could take not quite as long, so we could peak earlier in this market cycle. Not in 2021, maybe the end of 2022, beginning of 2023, or it could even be the beginning of 2024. But ultimately speaking, what we're looking at is a general overvaluation of maybe somewhere between 2 to 300%. Let's say if we take approximately 250%, because it's more or less going to be in that ballpark. So this line right here would be 200%. The next line up would be 300. So if it happens sometime in 2023, maybe even early 2024, it should be overvalued by approximately 250% if we're at the peak of the bubble. If we look at the trend lines here, you can see that our first one was a 6,000% overvaluation, approximately. The second one was approximately 300% overvalued, so this was kind of cutting it in half from 6,000 down to 2,000. And then if we continue on, it went down to 1,000. And obviously there's a little bit of hand-waving action going on in terms of choosing the exact percentage point, but I just want to see I just want to show you, generally speaking, this was around 6,000, around 3,000, around 1,000. So it's kind of interesting in terms of looking at it, divided by 2, divided by 3, and then divided by 4 would put it at a 250% overvaluation at the peak of the next market cycle. So with that in mind, what does that mean? What does it mean for it to be overvalued by 250%? Well, if we speculate that the peak will come in, say, the middle of 2023, give or take a few months, then we're looking at a fair valuation of Bitcoin at around $40,000. So if Bitcoin continues to follow this logarithmic regression curve, it'll put it at a fair value of approximately $40,000 per Bitcoin in the middle of 2023. Now, if the fair value of Bitcoin is approximately $40,000, but it's overvalued by approximately 250%, then the speculative bubble top, could reach approximately $140,000. So I think that this is somewhat of a realistic scenario that I could see. Obviously, we could go down, we could go slightly up in the short term, but I still think that we're on track for that projected next bubble peak several years from now. And this is why we also made a video on the channel that said, expect a narrative shift in what people are saying on YouTube and Twitter for what Bitcoin is doing, because most people in this space would lead you to believe that it's on a 4-year cycle. Again, I think this is a huge disservice to the cryptocurrency community. One of the biggest, I don't know how to say it in a polite manner, but one of the biggest, incorrect propositions for the Bitcoin price that I could possibly imagine. And I just don't think that there's any chance that Bitcoin will reach $100,000 next year all the data suggests that it will take, in fact, much longer than that. So again, look to see a narrative shift from these people that constantly talk about a $100,000 Bitcoin in 2021, because in order for them to continue to get the clicks and the views, they're going to have to come up with another reason why their prior predictions for the last couple years are going to be wrong. And we said this in 2019. Everyone who has been talking about a 4-year cycle, there will be a quote-unquote reason that it is not true. Okay, we said this back in 2019. Now it's 2020. We're still at 10K. Next year is 2021. So the reason, obviously, it's a pretty convenient one, of course, would be the pandemic, right? And I'm not trying to discount it. I mean, I'm sure that the pandemic has affected the price of the markets. I know that it has. It certainly has affected traditional markets, and a consequence of that, it's also affected Bitcoin to some degree. So my point, though, back in 2019 was that no matter what happens, it will not peak at 100K in 2021, and there will be a convenient reason that people will turn to as to why it didn't happen. But I'm here to tell you that it was never going to happen, and it's still going to take a few more years to really propel ourselves up to a $100,000 Bitcoin. So again, next year, look for a shift. We've already seen it this year some as we've continued to move through the year. We've seen as the months go on, people start to shift the narrative. They slowly stop talking about 4 years and then shift to more say, oh well, it's going to take a few years longer. So expect this to change and this narrative shift to play out. And then we'll look back on 2021 and it's almost going to be like the 4-year cycle theory will almost become a meme in a sense, right? People will talk about it and say, oh, like how Bitcoin was supposed to get to 100K in 2021. I think it'll just turn into more of a joke than anything that should have ever been taken seriously. So if we just kind of wrap it up there, that generally explains what I think about the markets. I do think we're still several years away from $100,000 Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that we can't have short-term speculative bubbles. In the meantime, we had one in 2019 that took us to 14K, even though the fair value was only a few $1,000s. It's still possible we have short-term bubbles on the way up to the next paradigm shift in the price of Bitcoin, which will take several more years. So if you are interested in the content that I make and you like this, then please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you check out the Telegram channel. If you want access to exclusive content, we do more. I do things more from a data science perspective rather than traditional technical analysis. My background is a PhD in engineering, undergrad in mathematics. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to check out my website, intothecryptoverse.com. If you go there, you'll get access to a whole lot of things when you sign up, including a private Telegram alerts channel, a private Telegram chat room, a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade momentum shifts in the market. It's been working out great for a long period of time. You can always ask people in the public Telegram chat what they think about it, and hopefully they'll give you their candid opinions. In addition to all that, you get access to weekly premium reports and weekly premium videos, and you'll also unlock access to all the prior reports and videos. So when you sign up, you'll get access to all that sort of stuff. So make sure you check it out. If you're interested in the exclusive content, sign up, and I'll see you there. At the very least, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.